What's up, guys? It's Crash. We got some more information about Gray Zone Warfare, and it basically came in the form of an interview. The creative director, Mara, went on one of my favorite podcasts, and quite frankly, one of the inspirations for my own podcast that we do here every Monday, and that is the Pogcast with Jesse Kazam and Veritas. And let's be good journalists around here. Let's go ahead and get some housekeeping things out of the way. If you guys want to check out their channel, I highly recommend it. It's a weekly listen and or watch for me. I'll leave the YouTube link down in the description so you guys can go over there, check that out, hit the subscribe and the bell, and you guys will get this full interview when it goes live. They usually post them over the weekend, so it should actually be pretty soon if you want to see the whole thing. I went ahead, what I did for you guys is watch the whole thing on Veritas's Twitch channel and went through everything that was kind of important to me, because there are some big ticket items in here. There's some stuff about AI, and there's some stuff about anti-cheat, and there's some stuff about kind of how servers are going to work and things like that, and the overall kind of status of where they are right now in development and what they're worried about moving forward. It was a really candid interview, and I respect it quite a bit. The other thing I want to take care of is the gameplay that you guys are seeing behind me is from Redbeard Mortis. He graciously allowed me to use it. He was one of the creators that got a play, so some more fresh-ish gameplay for you guys to check out, and his link will be in the description as well. But like we do on this channel, I want to get you guys information as clear and concisely as possible in kind of a discussion format, when that means you guys talk back to me down in the comments of what you think of all this. I really like talking about this kind of stuff in these kind of discussion style videos, because they're what I like to watch. I hope you guys do. So let's get right into it. When they started out with the interview, it really started out with kind of more just kind of big picture things, how the game got started, and it's just kind of interesting stuff. They basically did market research and talked about how BRs and 5v5s are already pretty saturated, and they weren't, really confident. They didn't want to focus so hard on balancing like you have to do in more competitive PvP game modes. And in the beginning of their development, they had a lot of small maps that everyone played on, kind of like Tarkov, you think, going around to different maps and stuff like that. They were really scared of doing a large map, but then they switched to UE5 and went for it, just making a big open world thing. And they also talked about kind of the philosophy of how they designed the game like they did, and how they looked at the market and how things were received. And they even talked about like DMZ failing because the Call of Duty people don't understand what people want when they play that kind of game. So they really want to hone in on that when somebody wants kind of a more hardcore MMO style survival game, what do they want to get out of the game? And in talking about the AI and how they were looking at that, there were some really interesting topics that they covered in there. They want to look at AI and the game itself, focusing mainly on PvE, but with the PvP kind of spice in, like anytime a PvP battle could pop up. And they said he kind of wanted to make the AI like Dark Souls, in the fact that, you guys have to bear with me, I haven't played very many Dark Souls games. I've watched them played, I've watched streams of them, but I've never played them myself. Once you level up, he said you can handle most of them, but if you slip up, you're dead. So similar to Dark Souls in that fact, you make a mistake, you're kind of gone. And different things can happen. You might think AI is easy, you might slip up, get punished for that, as well as that PvP spice might pop up and somebody could come in and mix things up a little bit. It could get more than you bargained for. Then they went ahead and talked about the AI actually shoots from the gun, so I thought that was really cool. And they also can get injured. So like when you break an arm or something, they can't use that arm, or they can't run if you break the legs, stuff like that. And they also have recoil like we do. And I know a lot of times in Tarkov, we're going to see how this plays out, but in Tarkov, you can get shot from a long distance, one tap from a scav, and you're like, how could they even shoot a gun like that in full auto and hit me? Like if you get hit with a Keter from across the map or something crazy like that. It doesn't happen too often, but once in a while it does. So they're trying to alleviate that issue. And the AI has kind of an emotion system based on interaction, and they're still working on some of the distance and stuff. And guys, I mean, even a caveat with this whole thing, right? It's easy to get mixed up. I really think this game is going to be a journey from what it sounds like. Early access is going to be one of those things. It's going to be a step in the journey, and the game is going to need a lot more work. And we get into talking about some of these things that are really exciting. It's just important to keep in mind that, we're talking 1.0 versus early access. And I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed when early access comes out, because a lot of these things are really exciting and you're expecting them to be there. I would refer you to a video I made a while back, where they basically posted on Steam, on a Steam blog, this is early access, this is what we're working for, in our vision. So it's important to keep that in mind. A lot of this stuff sounds really cool, but it's coming later. I guess that was a really wordy way to say that, but just keep expectations in check. But if you're like me, I really think I see the potential in this game, and listening to Mara talk so candidly and honestly about kind of thoughts and feelings on things was really cool. It was really refreshing to see, because he was a little bit vulnerable in some of this stuff. So and he talked about how like the philosophy of being able to come back to your stuff is really cool, because whenever you get killed, you're not done. Like in Tarkov and some other games, you're completely over. Even your friends, you know, they can collect up your stuff and they want to get out. It basically ends the raid or ends the gaming session for kind of everybody, and you have to start over. Well, in this case, it's going to be interesting because you can start over, right? You're about, probably they said roughly 6 minutes from getting back to the base, getting your stuff and moving forward. So I thought that was pretty cool. And he said again, reiterated, they do not want it to be like Tarkov. They want it to be more like an MMO where you sign in for a play session, and that whole time you're playing, you are in the game. You are on the server. You're not out playing with menus and stuff like that. So I thought making it more MMO-like sounds really cool. And kind of in this talk, he did also mention that the coma state has been added. That's what, you know, the DBNO state where your friends can, he envisions a game, you know, a time where you can drag people to safety and work on them, but the coma state is in the game now. And there really are different ways to look at a death. Like, you want to go back and get your stuff and come, or do you want to go back to the fob, try to gather a few things and get back to where you were and start over, or your friends can pick your stuff up and meet you back at base and you guys can go again. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do, but the main kind of takeaway was when you're playing the game, you're in the game. And I think that's really neat, and I hope it catches on and could go a lot of places if they get this game fleshed out. He does go on to say he was, you know, perfectly honest and says early access is likely going to be unbalanced because they don't really have any data. They don't have this in the hands of players and getting large scale data to see, you know, what they're going to need to do and what they're going to need to change. They also talked about limiting the size of the stash to make it a little less meaningless to die. Like, if you can't hang on to a bunch of stuff, you might have a limited amount of things. Then he went on to say one of the quoted topics that if you guys are following along with Gray Zone Warfare, you're going to see this comment around. You're going to see this clip. It's going to be a short. It's going to be on X or Twitter or whatever. You're going to see it. He basically said, Mara says, I am not Nikita. And he says, I am creating the experience, not the frustration. He said he's trying to craft an experience for players, not make people frustrated. So chat kind of popped off when he said that. That's going to be quoted and showed around a lot of times. He said, you know, when they were doing market research, that he was playing the game and it was really frustrating to get Peacekeeper unlocked, but he didn't have any quests. And the first thing he wanted to do to unlock Peacekeeper was get those kills, get those PvP kills, kill other PMCs. And he didn't really want to play that way. He wanted to play it kind of like the game he's designing now, where he's, you know, progressing through the game, not searching out PvP. So he was frustrated in the way it forces you to kill other players. So that's where some of the quest design comes from. Another thing that was really, really interesting, and I didn't even think of this before, is how they're going to look at quest designing. You know, in Tarkov, you know, and this goes along with kind of the overarching theme of wanting to spend time in the game. You know, in Tarkov, a lot of times, man, when you get a quest, what's the first thing you do? You pop out, you go to a wiki, you see where you need to go, you need to see what it is and what's going on. This is not the case. They want to make it to where you can stay in the game and complete quests, and this might change over time, but what they want to start out doing is, in the quest, they want to give you maybe the coordinates on the map. You guys have seen the large map and it's got the coordinates. They want to give you the coordinates of where you have to go and maybe like a screenshot of the building. So similar to, you know, if you're doing a mission or something in real life, you know, you get your briefing. Maybe you get a folder. I always envision, just like in the movies, you get a manila folder with all the documents that you need to take out the hit or whatever. But in this case, they're giving you enough information that you might not have to go out to a wiki. Now, we all know that there's going to be wikis and stuff like that already, but that's just going to be a thing. But the thought of being able, like in Tarkov, man, I don't even think it's a possibility to be able to play without checking out the wiki. With that being a possibility and being able just to stay in the game and figure out stuff on your own and having that reward of, you know, just staying in there, figuring it out and doing it yourself, might be pretty cool. And that was pretty exciting and something I really hadn't thought of before. The question was posed to him about wipes and how things would be going forward. And he mentioned about potentially in the future causing you to rotate factions. So if you start in one faction, on the next swipe, you will be put into a different faction in kind of rotating order. That will mean you'll be in a different spot on the map. Your fob will be different, and you will also get some different quests, a little bit different quest lines. And that's going to be closer to 1.0 when that's kind of in place. That was kind of a vision that they're hoping for, that each faction will have a little bit different path to play through the map and progress. So as you do wipes, you get to play through all the different ones. And they talked about how they're handling feedback and his philosophy on complainers. Basically said they want to take all feedback. And now this is really important. And this is important to think about if you are giving feedback. If they ask for feedback, you give feedback, that's all great. But what he talked about was it has to fit in the vision. If the feedback that they're seeing fits into their vision, then they want to go for it. They want to improve the game. They don't want to shift what it is, if that makes sense. They want feedback that corresponds to where they want to take the game. And they want to make PvE focused and beginning, and they want to make PvE like a stable experience before they start adding other things in PvP. He said PvP players will need to be a little bit patient. More hotspots on the map will come, and it will get there as the game matures. They want to build kind of a sandbox and turn people loose and see how it goes, was another thing that was mentioned. Now, some of the biggest ticket items, and you guys have known if you follow the channel for a little while, I have been very concerned, as many of you are and as many of us should be, about anti-cheat. And it sounds like the two things I proposed that I thought would work out really well. Now, I'm not saying that they're watching my channel, not saying that, but the two things that I was really interested in hoping for is exactly what they did, or what they are going to do, I should say. They're going to start out with machine learning. Now, at an early access, I don't think that will be available because they need to get data and stuff like that. They're going to start out with easy anti-cheat, which is just kind of a generic, a lot of games use it, but they are working with a company. I don't know who it is. I'm just hoping. One of the ones I've seen is anybrain.gg. They're an AI anti-cheat that's pretty prominent out there. So I'm kind of hopeful it's that one. I think what they're doing is really cool. So in the future, machine learning and AI anti-cheat will be something that they are collecting data for and are working with a company to do, which I think is awesome. And, you know, one of the only ways that's going to work and help. And that's what he also said. The other thing, and, you know, even with all that stuff, there's still going to be cheaters, right? That's just a thing. The only thing that I could think of that could really stamp them out completely is self-moderation. Is if you have a custom server and you have a team of mods that you trust and it runs on your machine and you moderate it yourself. You keep track of the 30-some players on your own server, and that's what they're doing. Now, not at early access, but down the road, it sounds like Rena servers is going to be a thing. They're going to give people moderation tools, as well as what would be really cool is a free cam. So, you know, server moderators will be able to have a free cam, look around on the map. That'll be really cool for content creation for sure. But even just checking things out and even doing like maybe community PvP nights or something like that. The possibilities really are endless for having the free cam. But yeah, I'm really hopeful. That's exactly the two things I said, guys, was machine learning, you know, anti-cheat to handle stat bans. And then something like, you know, self-moderated servers, self-police servers. If you have an active mod team that's keeping an eye on stuff and reviewing people, should be, I mean, that's, it's not going to be perfect, but I can't think of anything reasonable that you could do that would be more effective against cheaters. That's about the best two that I could come up with, and that's what they're working towards. The other thing that I was wondering, and I've been asking a lot and I hadn't heard, it mentioned that he talks about the servers are going to run at 30 hertz, a 30 hertz tick rate server. So I think that's pretty reasonable for everything that's going on. You know, a persistent server with that much information is still going to be a tall task on the netcode side of things. So 30 tick rate is, I think, about all we could ask for, because if you think it's going to have to keep track of people's bases, it's going to have to keep track of loot, where that's all at. It's also going to have to deal with regenerating places. We talked about how, you know, the server was going to continuously evolve. The map was going to evolve. After someone left a place, the doors would close, the loot would repopulate. The server's going to have to keep track of all that information. So if we could get to 30 hertz, which is more than Call of Duty Warzone, I think we're doing pretty good on that. And right now, as far as where the game is at right now, he said they are working on the final early access features. Basically, they have a date, but they're keeping that internal. They don't want to publish a date and then miss it, which I totally get. As soon as you start putting dates out, delaying, dates out, delaying, you start to really lose community trust. So I definitely respect them for keeping that under wraps. That makes the most sense. But they're working on the final features. They're working on animations and how spent brass will come out of the gun. And they're also really working on fine tuning squatting up and profile networking. Squatting up is a little bit different in the persistent servers, so they're working through that. And basically he got a little bit candid as well, talking about how he's a little bit nervous. He straight up said the Helldivers numbers, the Helldivers 2 numbers were scary on how they had to scale up servers. And yeah, he was just really honest about being scared of launches and crashes and how server loads are going to be handled. So yeah, that's basically where they're at, finishing up some of the last early access stuff. And a lot of the stuff in these talks, in these devlogs, are really exciting things. And I just want to stress, guys, and this is what I'm doing. I think I've calmed down from the hype just a little bit to keep everything in perspective and understand that early access is going to be one of the first steps that we get to take part in, but the first steps of many, many steps to get this game to a vision. I think, you know, they already talked about, they have a lot planned already in season 2. We're going to get day-night cycles. There's going to be a wipe then, potentially switching factions. All that stuff is coming. It's going to be a while. I think it's going to be a while. I think this game is, and if you take a look at other games that started in early access, I think this game is starting ahead of many, many of those. And I just hope it's getting compared to, you know, titans in the space, like Tarkov, like DayZ, Rust and Scum, things like that. But just keeping it in perspective that this is the start of their journey, and it's in a pretty seemingly dang good starting place to where they want to go. I hope the game can stay relevant and get to its goals, because I can kind of see the vision for where they're trying to get, and it could be a one-of-a-kind game. It's really cool. It's very rare to see a game that's not just a copy paste. They're really taking a lot of different aspects from different genres and different games, and this is kind of the first time that this has been combined into one shooter, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm hopeful and rooting for them, because and the reason why I'm rooting for them, they're not paying me, nothing like that, like nothing. let's be honest, like my channel's way too small for that, but I'm just rooting for them and speaking favorably of them, because I appreciate their honesty and their communication. And you know, Mara in these interviews, he just tells it like it is. He tells how he's feeling, tells what they're doing, and it's just refreshing. He's not sugarcoating anything. You can tell he's not saying stuff to sell more copies. Blunt, honest. I appreciate that. On top of that, I appreciate you guys. If you made it this far in the video, I cannot thank you enough. That's incredible. To know that you guys spent a large chunk of your busy days with me is incredibly humbling. So thank you guys, and I really hope to see you on another video soon. I appreciate it.